Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to a very special episode of the Captain's Log. Today, we have somebody from Paramount. We have creative consultant Mike Johnson. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
First introduction to Star Trek. Let's start there.
First introduction to Star Trek that I remember.
Yeah.
I'm a 70s kid, so the Mego action figures with the real cloth uniforms.
Really?
They had these big plastic light blue phasers and whatnot.
You still have them?
I do not, sadly. So those are my first, and then I'd seen, reruns of the original series, and then I remember my dad took us to see the motion picture, and I'm gonna be a little blasphemous here. I was bored out of my mind.
No.
I was like 6 or 7 years. Yeah, right. Shocking, right? But I was like, where's the Wookiee? Where's R2-D2? Why are the ships moving so slowly? Why aren't they firing it?
Where are the lightsabers at?
Where are the lightsabers at? And then a couple years later, Wrath of Khan came out and changed everything. So yeah, I mean, the love's been there for a long time. And then I consider myself a TNG baby. 1987 when the show premiered, and I remember nobody in my family wanted to watch it, so I had to watch it. We had a little TVs used to be big boxes. I don't know if people remember
CRTVs.
That.
I
Yeah.
remember.
But we had a tiny little black and white one upstairs, and I just watched that. So I saw it in like black and white, the first episode, and blew my mind. I was just TNG, just fell in love with it and
Entranced.
Yeah, entranced. And then all through the movies and watching DS9 and Voyager. Voyager I particularly love for the conceit of Voyager.
Voyager's one of my
amazing
favorites.
cast, yeah. And then I've recently been revisiting Enterprise, which is really fun to come back to and see them play with that idea of the early days.
I didn't have strong feelings against Voyager. I thought that the characters were relatively interesting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was different because I was just coming off of Voyager. My Voyager experience was we all got takeout and watched the series finale of Voyager.
Oh, wow.
Chinese food, snacks, Ben & Jerry's ice creams for everybody.
Yeah.
That was my big thing. So I had no problems with Enterprise.
Do you have a particular Trek iteration that's nearest to yours? Voyager. Cool.
It was the
Voyager person.
I was a Voyager person. So Voyager, I used to come home from, middle high school, and Voyager would always be on, I think it was CBS, but it was always on at 6 p.m. I always watched it every single day religiously. And Voyager,
there's something to be said for that. Actually now, BBC America plays Next Gen every morning, and sometimes I'll just put it on when I'm having breakfast or whatever, answering emails, and it's just it's just such a mood.
It's comfort.
It's comfort.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, creative consultant. That's what's your job. You've been doing that for a long time.
Big.
What does that mean?
That means that on any of the Star Trek video games, I work with the creative people at any given company and help them ensure that everything looks and feels and smells and tastes and everything appropriately Star Trek.
Okay.
So, there's so many sort of space-based IP out there and big sci-fi IP.
Like Galaxy Quest.
Great Star Trek movie.
Great. The seventh best Star Trek movie?
That's right, yeah. So we want to make sure that any of the games that we put out there feel Star Trek enough. And so that's essentially what I do. And in the terms of nuts and bolts of the job, talking about Fleet Command, we have weekly Zooms with the team at Digit in Dublin and the folks here at Scopely. And they submit new ships to review, and at early stages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So overview of here's what we're thinking for the next. We have a calendar for the end of the year. Here's the roadmap, and then within that roadmap, things are in various stages of production. We see things at a very early stage. So hey, we're thinking about adding these ships to the game. What do you think? Or characters, all of that. Or we want to explore. Say we want to bring Voyager in. Right. How could we start to do that? So all those kind of blue sky, blank slate kind of things. And then as things get into production, we'll start reviewing ship models, even grayscale 3D models.
Sure.
I work with Brian Lelis, the narrative head, and his team, where they'll sort of say, bullet point, here's the missions we're thinking about. And then when they're actually written, I'll read the missions and just make sure. And I don't have to edit as much anymore because they know what they're doing so well. And but just kind of making sure that everything reads right. So it's really fun. Yeah.
Because they continue a lot of those missions from like where the series ended almost. Or
That's
they try
right.
to like progress it.
Yeah, they try to progress. Because one of the pitfalls of when you're working with a franchise, and particularly a franchise that's producing new content on TV or in movies, you don't want to step on what the TV or the movies are doing.
Right, of course.
So you're trying to find those like corners where, well, they didn't explore this as much, and they're probably not going to come back to it. So on my end and with the franchise team at Paramount, we're able to say that's safe to explore.
Cool.
Like, the show's not going there anytime soon. Now, sometimes that can backfire. It hasn't really backfired in Fleet Command, but I don't think anybody knew that you were going to end up with season 3 of Picard when Disco started. That this renaissance of Trek would end up with what is essentially like an extra season of TNG. So like you never quite know where things are going to end up. Or when the JJ movies, after Star Trek Beyond, nobody knew there was going to be a resurgence of Star Trek on TV.
Right.
It was like, what's the next? And like TV has changed, so no one knew
streaming
was a thing,
yeah.
right? So it's changing so fast. So you try to build in some safeties where you're sort of future-proofing what is going to be seen in the game.
So going back to the creative and the reviewing and exploring like parts of series that maybe haven't been explored as much and finding those avenues, creating a Star Trek video game or any sort of offshoot away from the main series is definitely something where the team does get a certain amount of creative freedom.
Yeah.
As long as it's staying within what Star Trek looks, feels, breathes, smells, and should inherently be.
Yeah.
Because I know that we have ships in the game that definitely don't exist in Star Trek at all, and I'm sure you've seen every single one of them, like the
That's
Vidar,
one of my favorite.
you know?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite parts of the game is seeing what Ferg and Phil and their team come up with that have never been seen before, but still feel like they belong. Because that's one of the things we wrestle with is like sometimes a ship just looks like a Star Wars ship,
right?
Kind of more kit bashy. Like Trek's doesn't do as much kit bash as kind of Star Wars does, or a thing like Guardians of the Galaxy has kind of pushed what ships can look like with their bright colors and crazy designs and not only have the Fleet Command artists figured out a way to create new ships, but also iterate on the ships that everybody knows and loves. So if you look at the Romulan ships, there's like the classic D'Deridex, Big Bird, and as you're going into, for people who have played the game, as you're going into more advanced levels, you're seeing iterations of that shape that are just mind-blowing. And I really want like desktop versions of some of these things. Like they're just so amazing. So
I can get you the screens, or I
can
probably get you the polls,
make
anything you want to see.
Nice. Do you guys have a 3D printer around here? I feel like you should.
We probably should.
Feels like Scopely should have.
Feels like something that we're missing an opportunity on. Just printing out a bunch of 3D printed models of different ships.
Yeah.
Have your like commander name down there. What ship do you want?
What ship do I want? The ship that I really love is the dark jellyfish, the evil jellyfish.
The black jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Black jellyfish, because those movies are near and dear to my heart, and having that in the game is really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Evil jellyfish. Yeah.
Listen, they're just
They're
misunderstood
like,
jellyfish.
They're misunderstood. Yeah.
So, working in creative, you've seen so many different iterations. You've seen things evolve a lot over the years, right? Like, you said you grew up on TNG. You've seen Voyager, Enterprise, Strange New Worlds, Discovery. Like, how has like that sort of creative concept and just sort of the overall idea of Star Trek evolved since you've been here? Because you've been a creative consultant for, you said 20 years?
Yeah, I started on Trek working for Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orsi who were the writers and producers of the 2009, the first JJ movie.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of my professional entry, and I started with them in like 2006, and I think they were just starting to talk about doing the movie, and then there was a treatment that they wrote called Same Ship, Different Day. And I remember that Nero was like really different, totally different character.
Really?
It was really interesting. And then from there, I started working on Star Trek comics and writing the tie-in comics.
That's right. You did a lot of comic stuff too.
To doing those. And that comic work is what I think made the powers that be at Paramount, specifically a wonderful fellow named John Van Sitters, who felt like he could entrust me, because the majority of my comics was the Kelvin universe. Mm-hmm. And when Fleet Command started, it was a Kelvin game.
Yeah, it was all Kelvin. Prime wasn't added till later.
He was the one that brought me on as a creative consultant in 2015 to say, just, can you oversee that? Can you be my mini-me on this game? And then that's how it happened. Yeah.
Do you see things evolving and changing over time? I mean, you've seen so many iterations, and Strange New Worlds is obviously wildly different than what TNG could and was, right?
It's been great. And I think even though you've got all these iterations, there's still, I think, unlike a lot of other IP, there's a mission statement for Star Trek in terms of creating an optimistic future of people working together at the height of their skills. Like, Star Trek's all about, people's expertise, their knowledge, not to mention the bravery and all of
course.
All of those.
There's always the bravery.
Yeah, but there are certain things that I think it's been great to see how the different shows maintain the heart and soul of the franchise while definitely branching out.
Oh, I meant to mention this to you. So you were saying your first movie was
What's the motion picture?
The motion picture.
In the theater.
In the theater.
1,000 years old, yeah.
When I was a kid, my family rented from Blockbuster, First Contact.
I remember Blockbuster.
Blockbuster, what a great... Getting a Blockbuster movie on a Friday night after school,
Yeah.
But we rented First Contact, and the second the Borg Queen shows up on the Enterprise, I ran away. It freaked me out. I couldn't finish the movie.
When she comes down with half a body and
Yeah.
It's intense.
And then I remember coming down the stairs and peeking it, and like Data doing the Data thing, and Picard yelling, "No, Data, stop!"
And he's got the skin and all that. It's pretty rough.
It was. I peeked down and I saw it again. I was like, "Nope." Walked back upstairs.
Yeah. Great movie.
I still haven't seen it.
You still haven't seen?
Still haven't seen it.
It's like too intense for you.
No, I just
Friday night.
Friday night, me and the missus are going to have to sit down.
Paramount Plus.
Thank you so much, Mike. And thank you all, Commanders, for tuning into this very special episode of the Captain's Log. If you have any ideas for future content, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe so you know about all the new content that we're coming out with. And we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.